Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive, urgent shift in our global landscape. Literally, the timeline from threat discovery to real-world impact, it's vanishing. Whether you're tracking geopolitical tensions or the absolute latest cybersecurity breaches, the speed of risk is accelerating at a rate we've just never seen before. The grace period? Well, it's completely gone.
So this brings us to the overarching challenge of our time. In a world where threats escalate at machine speed, how do we defend the unpatchable? We're facing this intense 2026 reality where traditional reactive defenses are just getting completely outpaced by high-velocity autonomous threats. It poses a massive question for global readiness, right? When adversaries move faster than humanly possible, how do organizations or even entire nations protect themselves? It's honestly like trying to rebuild an airplane while it's in a nosedive. The old playbook simply doesn't apply anymore when the speed of the attack totally blows past the speed of your response.
Section 1. Global Flashpoints in 2026.
We're looking at a world in rapid motion where geopolitical events are leaving traditional strategic responses in the dust. Take the conflict sector, for example. A sudden, severe shortage of Patriot interceptor missiles left Kyiv completely exposed to ballistic barrages. That means defensive gaps are being exploited almost instantly. Meanwhile, over in the military space, China's rapid ballistic test from a nuclear submarine in the Pacific triggered immediate regional alarms, literally just hours after new defense alliances were signed. And economically, overlapping pressures are really mounting as EU sanctions weigh heavily, threatening an explosive crisis for Russian banks. What's absolutely crucial to understand here is that these tightly compressed physical reaction windows are mirroring and, honestly, often actively fueling an even faster invisible war that's playing out in the digital realm.
Section 2. The Digital Threat Convergence.
The silos that once separated malware, identity, and infrastructure have collapsed into a single high-velocity threat engine. We're witnessing a total convergence in cybercrime. The whole threat landscape has aggressively shifted away from those isolated human-led attacks we used to see, moving toward autonomous, agentic AI operations. Meaning, AI isn't just some basic tool waiting around for a human to type a prompt anymore. It's acting as an independent agent. Bad actors aren't just using AI to write convincing phishing emails now. They're deploying it as a massive force multiplier to manage the entire attack lifecycle. Around the clock. Without lifting a finger, it operates, learns, and iterates entirely on its own. Just look at this explosive spike. Between November and December of 2025, there was a staggering 1,500% surge in illicit AI discussions, peaking at 6 million mentions across underground forums. Threat actors have aggressively pivoted. They've moved on from simply experimenting with generative AI out of, criminal curiosity. Now, they're directly building automated malicious frameworks, and these frameworks are designed to operate relentlessly. They don't sleep, they don't take coffee breaks, and they are constantly probing for weaknesses at machine speed.
To really put that scale into perspective, 1.5 billion. There were 1.5 billion illicit discussions and criminal activities centered around AI across all of 2025. It's just wild to think about. Malicious iteration has become incredibly cheap, fast, and highly accessible. In the past, launching a sophisticated attack took real time, resources, human capital. Today, attackers can actually afford to fail constantly. They scrape data, rotate their infrastructure, learn from every single failed login attempt, and try again in milliseconds until they finally break in. The cost of failure has essentially dropped to zero.
Section 3. Info stealers and weaponized identity.
Now, this is where the sheer scale of the problem becomes genuinely terrifying. Last year, 11.1 million machines were infected with information-stealing malware. That resulted in 3.3 billion stolen credentials and session cookies, which, by the way, are essentially digital VIP passes that keep you logged into websites without needing your password, along with cloud tokens openly sold on illicit forums. Because of this massive inventory, the fundamental mechanics of cybercrime have totally flipped. Think about it like your home security. Attackers don't need to pick the lock or smash a window anymore. They just look under the mat, grab the spare key, and walk right through the front door. They simply log in using these stolen identities and behave exactly like legitimate users.
But the tools used to steal all this data are constantly shifting, and they operate much like a ruthless corporate market. The info stealer ecosystem is aggressively evolving. When the previous market leader, a malware family known as Llama, suffered a massive law enforcement takedown and had 2,500 of its domains seized, a huge vacuum opened up.
and Vidar 2.0 rushed right in, capturing a dominant 73.5% market share almost overnight. It's a highly resilient, heavily commercialized criminal ecosystem, and it adapts to disruptions instantly.
So this entire ecosystem builds into a highly efficient, automated four-step cycle. First up, harvesting. InfoStealers harvest credentials from personal devices or SaaS platforms, like your company's cloud software or email providers. Second is ingestion, where these massive raw data logs are fed directly into those agentic AI systems we talked about. Third, and this is where the speed becomes absolutely lethal, is automated testing. The AI autonomously tests these credentials across thousands of corporate endpoints simultaneously. And finally, step 4, monetization and escalation. Successful logins are immediately flagged for fraud or lateral movement. That means the attacker uses that initial entry point to sneak deeper and deeper into your internal network. AI is simply bypassing legacy defenses by doing the manual labor of 1,000 hackers in a matter of seconds.
Section 4. Accelerating vulnerability exploits. Vulnerability disclosures are just hitting record highs. Out of the over 44,000 vulnerabilities disclosed last year, nearly a third, 14,593 to be exact, had publicly available exploit code ready to be deployed. The sheer volume is completely overwhelming traditional vulnerability management teams. Imagine finding out your house has a broken lock and simultaneously discovering that the exact blueprint on how to jiggle it open has been published on the front page of the internet. That's the reality security teams are dealing with every single day now.
The strategic gap between a flaw being discovered and it being weaponized, it's practically gone. Adversaries are quickly pivoting to target high-value infrastructure and even AI development pipelines with 0 days. And if you're not familiar, a 0 day is a vulnerability the software vendor literally has had 0 days to fix because they didn't even know it existed. Exploits like Citrix Bleed 2, React 2 Shell, and Langflow carry a maximum CVSS severity score of 10.0. It literally does not get worse or more critical than that, and attackers achieved mass exploitation in the wild in just 24 hours. When adversaries are moving this incredibly fast, a standard 30-day patch cycle is just nowhere near enough.
Section 5. The Extortion Economy Pivot.
We're also seeing a fundamental evolution in how global extortion operates. As organizations have successfully hardened their firewalls and technical defenses against traditional encryption tactics, ransomware as a service groups are pivoting to the path of least resistance. And these groups operate like malicious tech franchises, by the way, where professional developers rent out their malware to affiliates. So instead of hacking the code, they hack the person. They're exploiting human trust through highly tailored social engineering. They target help desks, third-party vendors, and employees directly just to gain that network access. And the consequence of that tactical pivot is pretty grim. By targeting identity and human trust, we witnessed a staggering 53% year-over-year increase in ransomware attacks globally. Highly organized syndicates are running with industrial efficiency, and they were responsible for over 87% of these incidents. Extortion has totally shifted away from being a purely technical puzzle. It's become a dark negotiation of access, completely bypassing traditional perimeter defenses by exploiting the human element.
Section 6. Proactive Defense in the Age of Speed.
Okay, so here is your 2026 defensive blueprint. First things first, we have to entirely rethink our borders. The attack surface is no longer just your company's servers, it includes personal devices, employee browsers, and third-party cloud platforms. Because of this, you must treat a digital identity compromise as the starting point of an attack, definitely not the end. Your intelligence has to be incredibly proactive. You need to rely on early visibility and contextual intelligence, rather than just waiting around for some static alert to go off. And finally, you have to fight speed with speed. You must combine your own defensive automation with deep, human-led analysis to catch those subtle anomalies that machines might just miss.
I want to leave you with this final thought. If your digital identity is already compromised, are you just playing defense after the damage is done? If you're treating a compromised credential or a stolen session cookie as the end of the line, you are already too late. The breach has happened. In an era of machine speed attacks, automated exploitation, and rapid global shifts, preparation, foresight, and proactive intelligence are your only true defenses against the inevitable. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and stay vigilant out there.